For a long time, my loyal viewers have been begging me to review the Rocky Talkie radios. But for years, I have avoided making any videos about the Rocky Talkie brand radios because I did not consider them to be real radios. And what I mean by that is that for all intensive purposes, Rocky Talkie brand radios are not made for radio dorks. And I scoffed at the idea of using such a toy. However, I have now grown to learn that my scoffing was rooted in fear and ignorance. And using these radios has now opened up a real Pandora's box. Because now that I have actually used both of these Rocky Talkie brand radios, one of them has become my new favorite off-road radio, replacing the $2,000 Motorola XTS 2500 that I have been using for the last several years. I will discuss that more momentarily. So in this video, I will very quickly familiarize you with both Rocky Talkie brand radio models. I will explain the differences between the two models that the Rocky Talkie Corporation currently offers, and I will go over the features, strengths, and weaknesses of both of these handheld walkie-talkie radios. First of all, right off the ball, allow me to point out that the Rocky Talkie Radio Corporation did not send me these two radios for free. Indeed, I paid full price for both of these walkie-talkie radios using the monies that I collected from my supporting channel members. Those are the viewers that put their monies where their mouse is and clicked on the join or thanks buttons below. These are the two handheld walkie-talkie radios that the Rocky Talkie Radio Corporation currently offers. The Mountain Radio, which costs $110 of monies, and the 5-watt radio, which costs $180 of monies. Affiliate link below. The Mountain Radio is an FRS radio. This means that it has 22 basic channels. It can transmit a maximum of 2 watts of RF electricities, and the antenna cannot be removed, meaning that you cannot connect it to a larger antenna for more FARs. And no license or permission slip is required to use this radio. Anyone can use one of these radios here in these United States of America, irregardless of their age. The 5-watt radio model is a GMRS radio. This means that it has the exact same 22 channels as the Mountain Radio, so it can talk with the Mountain Radio, it can talk with any FRS radio, and it can also talk with any GMRS radio. The 5-watt model, as you might guess, outputs up to 5 watts of RF electricities. You can remove the antenna and replace it with a larger one for more FARs. And to talk on this radio or any GMRS radio, our overlords at the FCC's hath decreed that thou must haveth a permission slip, commonly referred to as a GMRS license. There is no test for a GMRS license. You purchase it, just like you purchase a fishing license. The cost is $35 for 10 years. And it allows your entire immediate family, irregardless of their age, to transmit on this radio or any GMRS radio in these United States of America. And yes, just in case any confuculation remains, these radios do talk to each other, and they are compatible with and can talk to any other GMRS or FRS radio. And both of these walkie-talkie radios work right out of the box. No programming or configuration is required other than turning it on and selecting a channel. So when you purchase either of these radios, in this very handsome and very cleverly designed box, you will receive a very simple to understand quick start guide right on the inside of the box. You will receive another very simple to understand and perfectly written in perfect English quick start guide. And both radios come with a USB-C's to USB-A's charging cable. And as you can see, shit. All right, where was I? Now I've lost my place. On both radios, you will find a power on and off button, a paddle button, which is used for changing the channels up and down, and also for locking the radio and enabling the scan mode. On the side of both radios, you will find a hole for connecting accessories. The Mountain radio uses a standard boofwang type connector for most accessories, whereas the 5-watt radio uses a waterproof connector. Both radios have a USB-C's charging hole for use with the aforementioned USB-C's charging cable. Both radios have fairly large push-to-talk buttons and volume up and down control buttons for raising and lowering the volume. Now, before I delve more into the features of these radios, allow me to take a moment to issue a very important warning. Every time I make a video about this type of higher-end, simple-to-use radio that costs more than $40, some people just cannot stop themselves from leaving stupid comments telling us all how dumb we are because they think that some $30 radio or some $700 radio is better because it has more bells, more buttons, or whatever. Even though those other radios, irregardlessly of the cost, have the exact same FARs as either of these radios. Some people will then go on to detail in their socially awkward comments that they would never purchase such a simple-to-use radio such as these, and anyone that would purchase one is obviously not as smart as they think that they are. But verily I say unto you that some people are completely incapable of grasping the concept that many people do not want all of that complexity, and many people actually prefer or even require a simple-to-use walkie-talkie radio. But sadly, some people, in addition to not being able to read facial and social cues, are also completely unable to process the thought that other people have needs and wants that are different from their own. What I am saying to you is that some people are idiots and their comments should be ignored. So allow me to be clear, these radios are not designed for radio dorks or some people. Indeed, it is a fact that according to Alex Page, the co-founder of the Rocky Talkie Corporation, that these radios are designed for and marketed to normal people that may have never even used a two-way radio before in their lives. And the Rocky Talkie Corporation specifically designed both of these radios to be as simple to use as possible, and they specifically and intentionally left out many bells and even more whistles that you might find on more complicated radios made for radio dorks, just so that they could keep them as simple as possible to operate. Indeed, it is a fact that these radios are designed so that anyone can quickly and very easily use them in the heat of the moment whilst doing vigorous adventuring activities, something that radio dorks simply do not understand because, of course, they never leave their basement. Some people will also demand to know if these radios are super heterodyne or SOC type radios. And the answer to that question is that if this is something that you really think is important in an adventuring radio, then this radio very clearly is not made for you. So tell mama to warm you up some more meatloaf and sit back down. As I was saying, it is also important to point out that unlike many of their cheap Chinese competitors, the Rocky Talkie Corporation is based right here in the heart of America, in the great state of Denver. Although to keep the prices as low as they can, the radios are manufactured in China, and the company does stand behind their radios as evidenced by the 2-year warranty, which is much better than the 90-day or 1-year warranties of many other radio manufacturers. Getting back to some of the features of the radios, both radios have this small, rigid, and very tough antenna. However, as previously mentioned, the 5-watt model version also comes with this larger antenna. The Mountain radio features this carabiner for connecting to whatever you may want to connect it to. They both offer these springy connection cords, which I will discuss more of momentarily. And the 5-watt radio model features this very handsome and stylish pre-installed belt clip. Both of these radios are very tough. I think I'm going to have to go on the record and say that I think these are the most tough GMRS or FRS radios that I have ever reviewed. And because I am a YouTube's superstar and the queen of all that is GMRS, I have reviewed them all. The radios are made at least partially of metal or some kind of very strong plastic. I can't tell for sure. Whatever it is strong. And the radios both have a very thick rubberized case or coating. Even the very stylish belt clip on the 5-watt model radio is made of steel, not plastic. Both radios are lightweight but very substantial feeling. They do not feel flimsy or plastic at all. The mountain radio weighs around 6 OZs, whilst the 5-watt model radio weighs about 9 OZs. Both radios feature the previously mentioned innovative attachment systems to prevent dropping or losing them. The mountain radio, as previously mentioned, has this heavy-duty carabiner for attaching direct to your backpack or whatever, as well as this smaller carabiner and stretchy cord. And this is not some cheap plastic carabiner. This is a full-strength rock climbing carabiner. The 5-watt model radio, as previously mentioned, has this very stylish pre-installed belt clip, which also, as just mentioned moments ago, is made of steel, not plastic. And it also comes with the same high-quality stretchy cord. And these stretchy cords are not made of rubber. These are not bungee cords. They feel like they have a steel cable inside, but I cannot see for sure. And as mentioned only moments ago, these radios are designed to be tough. The batteries are not going to pop out if you drop one or bang it against the rocks. And as I mentioned only a moment ago, the innovative attachment system will help avoid dropping them in the first place and also help you avoid sending it down on a rock and walking away and losing it. The mountain radio has a 1550 milliamp hour battery, which means it will last around 4 days. And the 5-watt model has an 1800 milliamp hour battery that should last around 5 days. However, your actual battery life will depend upon how much you transmit. The more that you transmit, the faster the battery will drain. And yes, before some people leave comments, the batteries in both radios are replaceable. The mountain radio has an IP56 rating, which basically means you can use it safely in the snow or in the rain, whereas the 5-watt radio model has an IP67 rating, which means it is pretty much fully waterproof, so it is fully safe to play with in the bathtub. And the 5-watt radio model is also designed to do water shedding. This very important feature means that if you do drop it in the bathtub, after you fish it out and wipe off all the little black hairs, the water drains out and away from the microphone, making the radio usable. Because just in case you were not aware, and if you are not aware, you are about to learn, many radios, if they even survive being dropped into the water, are still useless right after you take them out of the water because the water will pool up and block the microphone until said water completely dries. And both radios have very loud speakers and are easy to hear and listen to during vigorous adventuring activities. Sadly, neither radio has a Roger beep because, let's be honest with ourselves, Roger beeps are for radio dorks. However, both radios do have transmit confirmation beeps, meaning that the radio makes a beep that does not get transmitted, but you can hear it to let you know that you pressed the talk trigger successfully. This is something that radio dorks will probably not understand because radio dorks have obviously never used a radio while mountain climbing or skiing with heavy gloves on, which can make it difficult to know if you are pressing the talk trigger fully and successfully or not. The 5-watt model has a dual channel watch mode, so should you choose to enable that mode, it will allow you to listen to 2 channels at the same time. However, this can cause much confuculation and it does suck the battery much harder when enabled. The 5-watt model can also receive NOAA weather channels and NOAA weather alerts. Both radios use the same screen technology, which is the old, reliable, durable, and low power consumption simple LED type. And both screens perform very well in bright, direct sunlight, Although I should point out that the screen does not really flicker like you see here in the video. The flickering is due to the vagaries of the digital camera machinery learning processor with the shutter screen and so on and such forth. It's all very technical. You probably wouldn't understand. But of course, the big question that everyone wants to know is, how many FARs does they talks? As previously mentioned, the Mountain Radio is an FRS radio, so it is limited to 2 watts, and the 5-watt model, as you might have guessed, is limited to 5 watts. And for most people, most of the time, in most geographic situations, usually on average, both radios will talk the exact same FARs. And the biggest limiting factor to your FARs will be whatever is between you and the other radio. Neither of these radios will talk through mountains or through thick forests at a distance, but if you are in a mostly open area within a mile or 2 or so of your group, the FARs of these radios will be pretty much the same. If you're in a wide open area, like on the top of a mountain, either radio will easily get 5 to 10 miles or more of FARs, but being the YouTube's superstar that I am, I felt that it was necessary to do some best-case scenario testing of these radios by talking to my friend Conrad, the chef, at his house 13 miles away. No repeaters, direct radio to radio. The chef was listening on his base station radio with a large antenna on the roof, and this is how the radios sounded from 13 miles away. Using the Mountain Radio, the signal from 13 miles away was very weak, but he could hear me.
Shipro, do you copy from the Rocky Talkie 5-watt handheld 1, 2, 3, 4.
And using the 5-watt model, the signal was actually very loud and clear. However, the big difference with regards to FARs is that on the 5-watt model, you can connect a larger antenna, which can greatly increase your FARs, and the 5-watt model can also be configured to use GMRS repeaters, which cannot be done on the Mountain Radio model. Because the 5-watt model can be configured to use repeaters, this means that if you know ahead of time that there will be a GMRS repeater in the area that you will be in, and if you configure the radio to use that specific repeater ahead of time, then using said repeater can potentially get you 100 miles or more of FARs. And I would also like to point out and remove any confucularity, and that is that in my opinion, neither of these radios, indeed no FRS nor any GMRS radio, is a good option for emergency communications. It is indeed a fact that I believe that no GMRS and no FRS radio is a good choice to rely on for getting help when you are in the middle of nowhere. These radios, in fact, any GMRS or any FRS radio, is for staying in contact with your group and not for true emergency communication whilst adventuring. And now allow me to take a moment to share my personal experience with one of these two radios, specifically the 5-watt radio model. For the last several weeks, I have been using the 5-watt radio model when I go off-roading, not as the main radio in my Jeep, but as the radio that I carry with me when I get out of the Jeep to guide someone over the rocks, or if I go wandering around or hiking through the tundra of the Southern California desert. And I have grown to like how small, lightweight, and rugged it is so much that it has now replaced my Motorola XTS2500 radio that I have been using for the last several years as my adventuring walkie-talkie. Now allow me to be clear and hopefully prophylactically prevent a bunch of stupid comments pointing out the obvious, so allow me to point out the obvious. My XTS2500, which, when new, cost about $2,000, is a very high-end public service LMR business-type radio designed for police and fire departments and other governmental agencies and businesses. It can do GMRS, it can do digital, it can do encryption, and it can do a whole bunch of other stuff, and it is also super rugged. It weighs about 5 pounds, but it is very rugged. And make no mistake, this XTS2500 can do way more stuff than the 5-watt model Rocky Talkie radio can do. However, none of that stuff matters when I am out adventuring. What matters to me when I am out of the Jeep guiding someone on the trail or going for a hike is how tough and how rugged the radio is, how lightweight it is, how easy it is to carry, and how fast and easy it is to use. And because this $2,000 radio has the exact same FARs as this Rocky Talkie radio, the Rocky Talkie radio is the better choice for me when I am out adventuring. But now allow me to take a moment to outline the dark side of both of these radios and go over the things that I do not like about either of these radios. First of all is the price. These radios are not cheap. But if you are spending thousands of dollars on outdoor gear and hundreds of dollars on shoes, then another couple of $100 for a simple-to-use, durable radio is probably not that big of a deal. The other thing that I do not like, and this is a very small nit to pick, the thing that I do not like is that when the screen goes off on both of these radios, which it does to make the batteries last so long, when the screen is off, there is no indication whatsoever that the radio is still powered on. I can tap the top button to see if it's on or not, but if it's laying around and I glance over at it, I have no idea whether the radio is on or not until I hear a blast of static or someone talking to remind me that I accidentally left it turned on. A tiny LED or power indicator of some kind would be much helpful. Other than that very tiny nit that I just picked, both of these radios are excellent for adventure use. And as I mentioned only moments ago, the 5-watt radio version is now my daily off-road go-to walkie-talkie radio. So you may be asking yourself, which one should you buy? Both of these radios are very good quality and very, very durable walkie-talkie radios. So which one is better for you? Depends on your definition of the word better and your wants and your needs in a radio. So only you can answer that question.